So hello and welcome. My name is Roddy Biggs. I use he, they pronouns. I am joined by the UUYARN worship team. Our theme this month was covenant. The worship team worked to incorporate what our understandings as ourselves and as our team, and UUYARN, what covenant meant. At this time, just as we do every time we gather, we set aside sacred time to be together, to share in our deepest rituals of joys, concerns, of profound milestones that we wish to make known to this gathered and sacred community. In just a moment, I will invite you to place those joys, concerns, and milestones in the chat, as I will do my best to read each one into this space together. So at this time, I would welcome you to place any profound joys that you are holding, that you want to make known to this gathered community in the chat. We have most adorable pronunciation of systemic racism ever. Seeing no more joys come in, be able to place those in. And also I'm going to invite concerns as well. So we have a joy for a friend who is a doctor. She defended her PhD on Friday. Much joy for that. Joining a congregational board today. Congratulations, Giancarlo. Joy for an awesome junior youth group RE class that someone led today. Excited about a second year in college classes starting tomorrow. Grateful for a weekend away with one's partner. Concern for one's partner's grandmother who passed away and being so far from the family. And seeing no more, recognizing that some joys and concerns are too precious, too raw, or too current to share. We hold those as well as all stated here in love. So at this time, I invite you to finish arriving in this space, to make the space that you are now a sacred and holy space, however best that is done for you. And we extend an invitation, but not an expectation to share, to take space so that everyone has a voice while prioritizing those that society affects at large. We listen to each other with an open heart, mindful that our lived experience is not always universal. And we are open to difficult or to different cultures, both ideas and in our UU community. Center in and arrive in this place. And as you do so, please enjoy this music.
Open my heart.
Thank you and welcome.
Just waiting for some cars to go by, the loud noises. So now we're going to have a reflection. It's mine. This is actually what we're about to see is something that I put together for General Assembly. So it's going to be recording, not me reading it live. But before we get into my reflection, I just wanted to say brief words. That it's important to acknowledge when covenant has been broken and to work as a collective to repair and strengthen the relationship. To take time to do the work and educate ourselves without burdening others when we have broken covenant. Seek wisdom from those offering it rather than demanding it from people closest to you. Practice open inquiry when possible. Assume competence and goodwill as a starting point. Recognize that some things are set while others are flexible.
I mean, there are layers to healing. It's complicated. And I'm here. I want to be able to say that. I want to say, to affirm, I am healing and I am here. My name is Camila Jacob. I use she, her pronouns, and I am on the soil and ancestral lands of the Lenape peoples in Manhattan. So, curious to know what I'm healing from? Who did this? Unitarian Universalists. UUs. You. I was surprised by it. Born and raised UU. I was so educated and aware, and yet so naive. To think there was a time that I couldn't be hurt at or by church. To be honest, I knew, especially by the time I was in high school. I realized that UUs could be mean and cold and uncaring. I realized how much work it was being Unitarian Universalist. Even in Unitarian Universalist spaces, I realized this religion is work. It's hard work. And I was proud of that. And it made sense. Like, we're a young religion centered on valuing humans as humans. Yeah, that's hard work. In my 20s, I had my faith without being part of this regularly meeting community. And it was all good. I hadn't been put in a situation that knocked me down that I couldn't get back up from. I still had my YRUU friends, a few college friends, I had camp friends, I had some POC communities, and I'm grateful that my family, many people in my family, are Unitarian Universalist. So I felt like I had support because I did. I was able to stay in the loop in college, I was able to have my faith, but I was missing this major element. I was having this typical questioning my faith, but then it couldn't really be resolved through conversation. I just needed to be seen. I needed to be heard. I needed the community that I had grown up in. I mean, at least I needed to re engage with the individuals if the community itself wasn't there. So, realizing this, I wanted to reflect on what I've learned about my healing process. So, first I had to acknowledge that I was hurt, that I had been hurt, that I felt that the rug was pulled out from under me, and I had to be ready to heal. I had to want to seek community again. I needed to take time to search for UU communities. I had found myself that I kept trying the old forgive and forget by, okay, I'll just work with small groups or individuals. But it didn't feel like it worked because it didn't. And I needed to be seen and heard in a specific way, like a very specific and real way. So, of course, interacting with old friends felt the most comfortable. But then, what of my greater community? In the congregational spaces as an adult, I wanted to feel safe and comfortable. But I found myself working in the spaces and also realizing that I constantly felt like I had to prove myself. And like, what's up with that? I never felt this way before. I wanted to be there and work there and be able to feel whole. So, what had changed? What was it? Just adulthood? Maybe it was about managing being an adult and being at church, because that was like a new thing. But I had to stop blaming myself. Something that truly, truly others just had to see for themselves and decide for themselves is like recognizing the realization that I had been truly deeply hurt and made uncomfortable and felt like I couldn't be my whole self in these typical congregational spaces. And yeah, I'd spoken up in a way that previously would have been heard. And I tried to receive one-on-one support, share my concerns, share my sorrows, and they weren't accepted, and my joys weren't understood. And anyway, many Unitarian Universalists, maybe most, have grappled with their faith at some point in life. Was it the doctrine, the people, just mistrust? All of those things? I didn't want to leave. Why did I have to? I convinced myself that my absence would make an impact, but I never tried to find out, and that felt surprisingly refreshing. So it was part of healing, and it's been a slow process. The small gatherings I've had here and there really fill my soul, replenish me, and keep me going. It's really UUYARN, the Young Adult Revival Network, that has made me feel like I'm like back. I've had my other groups, but I'm back to life, back to reality. It's this network that grows and stretches in all directions, and it's part of my web of life. Being with this group kindles my flame. We live our truths. We work to trust each other. We put time in when we can and don't when we can't. We are honest. We are accepting. We are Unitarian Universalists. And I hope we're feeling great about this. That we can let all the lights shine bright. That we can all lift up those around us. Strengthen strengths. When we see a bright light, we can love it and know that ours can shine too and does not diminish. The last thing I wanted to say is, I love you.
And this time, I want to ask our tech team if we have a song for this moment, or if I am going to go ahead and jump in. Sam or Giancarlo?
Go ahead and jump in.
All right, sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Camila. It was absolutely beautiful. So, covenant. When we were talking about doing this theme and really working with what it meant, I said one thing in the worship meeting, and me being me, and if you know anything about me, I normally don't stick with what I said, but I am in a little way, for I haven't written anything new for today. Rather, after sitting with it for a couple of days, I realized that a sermon that I've delivered several times at other congregations actually seemed to fit perfectly within the context of this conversation. And so before I share that with you, I'm going to share a song with you. And this song is the grounding and the basis for the inspiration behind this sermon. And so our congregation in Brooklyn recorded this, and the song is a traditional African-American spiritual. Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? Then why not, everyone? Enjoy.
Why not every man?
Why not every man?
Why not every man?
Why not every
Did my Lord deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel? Did my Lord deliver Daniel? So why not every man?
Did my Lord deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel? Did my Lord deliver Daniel? So why not every man? Did my Lord deliver Daniel? So why not every man? Why not every man? So why not every man?
So the traditional African American spiritual, "Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel?" brought me to tears the first time I heard it. And it's honestly still known to do so. As a queer, BIPOC, young adult, Unitarian Universalist, traumatized by the religious and non-religious past experiences of my life, as someone living with mental and emotional health challenges on the daily, I can't help but to question, why not everyone? Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? Then why not me? Why not them? Why only a chosen and select few? Why are they the only ones who get to be delivered, who get to feel fully welcomed and loved? As Unitarian Universalist, our views of God, of the Holy Spirit, of the divine vary greatly, but our promise to a faith committed to love should not. Yet sometimes our best intentions have been known to get in the way of such a promise. Despite our best intentions, we sometimes fall short on our promises of radical, inclusive welcome and love. And when we do so, two things are bound to happen. The first being that we learn from our shortcomings, we recommit ourselves, we recovenant with ourselves and with each other as we strive to do better and to be better moving forward. And the second being that we get so caught up in the debate, in the problem, the challenge, and we do nothing. Covenant stays broken. Division, pain, and heartbreak grow. And we lose the very ones who need us most of all. As Unitarian Universalist, we have to remember that each person who chooses our faith is on their own spiritual journey, one of discovery, one of healing, one of self and world transformation. And that Unitarian Universalism is no easy faith. And honestly, few have ever said it was. In fact, in the words of Charles Matthieu, he writes this: "I assumed by its way and by its view that it was easy to be a Unitarian Universalist. It is as easy to be a Unitarian Universalist as it is to be persistent, courageous, and cautious. It is as easy to be a Unitarian Universalist as it is to search the murky waters of life without sure charts to guide you, or any guarantee that you will find a safe port to put down anchor. It is as easy to be a Unitarian Universalist as it is to overcome the natural fear of the unknown and venture forth with nothing to sustain us or save our zest for living, our hunger for experiences and knowledge. Our way of religion, friends, is not a way of ease. And so ends his quote. It is true that being a Unitarian Universalist is not a way of ease. And it is also true that our faith is at its best when everyone is welcome to join us on their own spiritual journey, however that might be, whatever that might be for them, whether it's one of discovery, of healing, of forgiveness, of recommitting, or starting new, or maybe starting for the first time. But will they see themselves, their beliefs, their values? Will they see people who reflect who they want to be in worship, in service, and in action? But what happens when we as UUs fall short on this? When we fall short on our covenant? What happens when a collective body of spiritual journeyers are no longer in right relation with one another? And when those among us who hold some of, if not multiple, of the most marginalized identities tell this collective body that they don't always feel seen, feel welcome, fully heard, loved, or like they belong among us. What then? What now? Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? Then why not everyone? Beloveds, I don't have answers for you, for I'm still trying to find them for myself. What I do have are some reflections and some questions. I have reflections as a queer, BIPOC, young adult, Unitarian Universalist of my relationship with the divine and the holy, and questions, but I'm not going to share those with you, for they're my questions and not yours. But I have them, and so do you. But to answer my questions, at least, I need a foundation for my questions. I feel like we all need some kind of spiritual resourcing to be able to tune in to the spiritual pain, suffering, and life-giving love that queer communities, BIPOC communities, young adult Unitarian Universalist communities like this one know. We know the love, but we also know the pain. And so settle in, rest, take a breath. There's so much ground to cover. So for me, growing up a religious kid in the South, being raised Presbyterian, my religious beliefs and views were much like those around me. I covenanted with Christianity and with the Presbyterian Church. My family, my friends, my community, religion was and still is a very big part of who I am, though it has evolved significantly over the years. I came out around the age of 12, and it was liberating. I felt free to be myself. I was happy. And then bullying started. But being a person of faith, I turned to it to find answers. And I found answers. Maybe not the answer that I was intending for that community that I was covenanting to. Didn't want to covenant back. And I learned that I was the queer, gay outcast of Christianity and of religion. And I left the church at 14. I wanted nothing to do with religion. In fact, I headed in the opposite direction. I didn't need that kind of pain in my life. Over time, I started to explore on my own. I was agnostic and then pagan and then not really sure what I was. 2016 happened, need I say more? And I found myself in a UU church on the first Sunday in January. And I fell in love with it. I joined a month later, and really the rest is history. And now, as only a true UU would say, I am a mythic pagan Christian, Unitarian Universalist with humanist tendencies. Yeah, so there's that. But I'm a Unitarian Universalist who's been hurt by the religion of my childhood. I'm healing, I'm growing, learning to love myself, trying to find my place on this topsy-turvy journey that we call life. And sometimes I know I belong, but in others I don't. Sometimes Unitarian Universalist sustains me, and others it breaks my heart. But I turned to it when I needed healing. As I began my healing, and I found a lot of healing. So much so that a year after stepping foot in that UU church, I crazily answered a call to ministry and started seminary a few weeks ago, and am called to be a faith leader in this movement because I see Unitarian Universalism as a powerful tool for healing when led bravely, courageously, and with love. But I'm still healing. Unitarian Universalism has still hurt along the way. It will continue to hurt. One, because of my identities with it, because of who I am in this world, but also because I know we can be better, we can do better. And I feel like you know that as well. We all want to draw the circle wider and wider still as we build and envision beloved community together. But we aren't there yet. And that's painful. It's painful for all of us, but it's especially painful for me as a queer Unitarian Universalist and as a person of color. It is painful to feel like I must always explain myself or where I'm coming from to the very people who claim to understand, who claim to get it, yet so often, maybe not in UUYARN or in young adult spaces of UU, but in our larger communities, I find myself explaining my existence and where I'm coming from, even as a Unitarian Universalist. And that's hard. It's painful, but it's real. And I know that. I knew that when answering a call to ministry, yet I was still called to answer it. I know this will be my reality into my formation and into years of ministry. But what else would I expect? It's always been my reality, inside and outside religious context. I can't ignore the fact that I'm a queer mixed race person in the South. And people are going to see me in different ways because of that. But Unitarian Universalism is a special faith. It's special for a lot of reasons. but it's one where queer, non-binary, Black, Asian Americans, Indigenous people, people with Hispanic roots, those with mental health challenges, those with both visible and non-visible disabilities come when they are seeking healing, when they come seeking community. And we owe it to all of us to be the best version of Unitarian Universalism that we can be as we gather now and welcome those who will gather with us in the future. We owe it to ourselves to grow, to change, to evolve, to be involved in creating a version of Unitarian Universalism that we all wish to see. And with all of this named, and yet more left unnamed, at GA, I was asked what a vocation in ministry meant to me. You would think I'd stop and like reflect on it and then maybe answer later. But no, instead I really didn't stop. I didn't reflect. I didn't think about it. And I said a vocation in ministry means being a voice for all of those who cannot or have not yet found their voice. To those who have been told that they do not have a voice or that they do not belong, yet still long for a spiritual community and want someone to tell them that they are not broken, that society is broken, and that they are welcome here just as they are, holy and sacred beings. And so I'm a Unitarian Universalist. I am a Christian. I'm a Christian Unitarian Universalist who is learning what that even means. And I'm grateful for the people who have come before me, who have made this path easier. People like Alondria Williams, who was a powerhouse in Unitarian Universalism. As a lay-led person, Alondria did more for this faith than so many ordained ministers. Alondria was co-moderator of the UUA. Alondria was a beloved mentor to many queer and BIPOC UUs, myself included. Alondria is a big reason as to why I'm where I am now. And one of the last conversations I had with Alondria, he looked at me and said, I can't wait for the day that I'm at your ordination, but they'll be there in spirit. For Alondria is our ancestor. I'm grateful for the Reverend Hope Johnson, who like Alondria was another powerhouse in liberation, in queer theology, in embodying what it truly meant to be a Unitarian Universalist in the 21st century. I've only had conversations with Hope through text, through email, and was actually planning to meet Hope in 2022 in Portland for GA. But again, Alondria is among my ancestors. I am grateful for teachings of Native Americans, those of First Nations, and all the Indigenous people who came before. And I always recognize that the land that I am on, that the systems, the places that I'm studying, worshiping in, shopping in, or even where I live, aren't mine. They never were. For the land doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to any of us. Yet I'm grateful for them. There are so many other people who I could name that I'm grateful for. And I'm sure there are people that you can name that you're grateful for as well. People who have helped you along the way, maybe in a profound spiritual way, maybe a beloved college mentor, a friend, a counselor. I invite you to place those names in the chat and to bring them into this space together. And as you do so, I leave you with this. May our lives honor their lives. May our legacies be a continuation of theirs. May we work in such profound and prophetic ways that everyone, and I do mean everyone, knows that they can embrace the divine, that they can be a Unitarian Universalist wherever, however, and whenever they wish. And that there will be a faith committed to love, to radical truth, to justice, that welcomes them. In the words of the Reverend Sophia Dr. Betancourt, we are the theological inheritors of teachings of universal salvation. There is no winnowing out the supposedly unworthy that can be named among us. It is our very universalism that is at stake when we turn away from the impact that our institutions have on the very communities and groups that society encourages us to dehumanize and make small. And so, beloveds, may we continue to ever widen the circle of concern, wider and wider still. May we work to constantly covenant, recovenant, covenant and recovenant again and again and again until everyone can be welcomed in our midst. So, yeah, Unitarian Universalism's not an easy faith. To constantly covenant and recovenant with ourselves and each other, living 8 principles, isn't easy. And it never will be. But there are so many outside our circle of concern and of love. What does it mean to say that all are welcome? So I don't pray often, but when I do, I feel like I make it count. And so I leave you with these words. I hope they echo in your mind and reach deep down into your soul, right down to your bones, to your very core. Lord, deliver me from pain, fear, and isolation. Deliver me from epidemic racism, white supremacy, homophobia. Lord, deliver me from the bonds of a society that attempt every day to enslave my soul, that attempt every day to deny me my voice and my rights, that I, alongside others, and with the help of my ancestors, have fought so long and so hard for. Deliver me and my siblings of faith in pain. Open the circle of concern wider still. Help us all to embrace the pain of our past while guiding us towards our future. Deliver me, deliver them, deliver all of us as we work to draw the circle wider and wider still until it embraces the whole world. May it be so, because we make it so. Ashe and Amen. And I will invite whoever's next to go.
So
As we
before our closing words, it's time for our big reveal from the
Yes.
worship team. So our big reveal for all of you this evening is to just say that, you know, at the beginning I said that we were inspired to create this worship thinking about covenant. It's not only our theme. We literally created this worship based on the UUYARN covenant. We pulled the UUYARN covenant out. We put it side by side with traditional worship elements and basically plugged our covenant into the worship elements to create this worship service today. And so we wanted to have this big reveal just to exemplify, to show that not only are we trying to do this practice of embodying it, but it's also how do we utilize it? How do we actually put this into something real in our everyday lives? How do we utilize this in worship? And typically yes, here's the big reveal. Typically we, might say, oh, let's pick one part of one principle and focus on this, or let's take this one thing and focus on this. And that's super important as well. But we just had to reveal that how we created this was simply by saying, let's look at our covenant, let's break it down, let's touch on each of these. We utilized one of our covenant pieces for the opening words. We utilized them in our joys and concerns for kind of a meditation, a prayer moment. We utilized, we used it as an inspiration for reflections. And now you will hear it as part of our closing words and our chalice extinguishing. So there's the big reveal. Hope you enjoyed. And thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. Thank each and every one of you for being here with us. And so I invite Giancarlo to unmute and share our closing words.
As we extinguish our chalice, we reflect on the theology of covenant from the UUA websites. Our choice to organize our promises among ourselves and that which invokes our ultimate covenant is our greatest strength. Developing practical spiritual practices to live in covenant can create space for sacred conversations and authentic being.
And for our closing words, we focus on what we can get done, what we can offer and invite each other into doing as we conduct ourselves with integrity.
When will we find a way? John Lewis believed we can change the world every day. 2 steps forward, then don't turn back. Tear down each border of brown, white, and black. Imaginary walls won't hold us back. When will we live in peace? John Lewis believed we're one family in the beloved world. No more stalling, face up to the fact. We're here one calling to brown, white, and black. This won't wait for Jesus coming back. Find a way, get into trouble. Find a way to the beloved world. Change the world today. We're one people and one love. Imaginary walls all fade away. We don't have to hate those we oppose. We'll take the road John Lewis chose. He was beaten, he was broken, but he rose. He showed what we're standing for. When will we see love in action? John Lewis believed that love is found in every heart. Feel the power we now embrace. With every hour we redefine our age. We'll build a world where we all find a way. Find a way, get into trouble. Find a way to the beloved world. Change the world today. We're one people and one love. John Lewis believed we can change the world. Find a way, the way of love. Find a way, faith, hope, and love. We're still here, MLK. The greatest of these is love. John Lewis believed we can change the world. We all create the beloved world. Find a way.
Thank you all again so much for coming. I'm going to stop our recording now.